Hello and welcome back to Getaway Day. As always, I'm Gautam, he's Mason, and we're here to talk about the 2023 wildcard and division series so far. I have already told one lie in this episode. We'll see if you guys can figure out what it was. Should be pretty obvious. I don't really plan on telling any more lies. I just thought that was going to be fun, so we went with it. Gautam, how are you doing? How was your weekend? Give me like a 5-second description of the baseball that you watched. Sorry,
baseball is
5 words. 5-word description.
Words? Yes. Oh man, this is hard. Okay. It was very postseason. Yes.
There you go.
Perfect.
It was very postseason. Yes, you heard it here, folks. That is all for us tonight. Thank you. All right. No, but for real though,
what's your 5-word description about the weekend of baseball?
I asked you first.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Now we're done.
Yeah, now we're done. No, we have a lot to talk about. We had some interesting happenings, I think, in the wild card series, and that's really the only way to say it. We're now in game 2 of the National League Division Series matchup of the Phillies and Braves. As we're recording this, I think we probably both have it pulled up on another screen. We have the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks game 2 tonight. So we will be talking about all 4 of the games that have occurred for each of these remaining postseason teams so far. And I think the first spot where we should probably start is for the second year in a row in the 12-team format, we have seen a first-round bye for a couple of teams. And some of these teams, the Braves, the Dodgers, the Orioles, did not get off to a great start in game 1 of their division series matchups. And that has sparked a lot of conversation across Twitter, Facebook, all your favorite media writers, all that good stuff about rest versus rust. So we went through a 162 game season in a grueling 180 something days. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
And then we get to the postseason. And as Adam Wainwright pointed out last night in the Twins versus, was it last night or was it game 1? Either way, in the Twins Astros series, I think it was maybe Correa pulled up a little lame, looked like he was limping for just a second. And he goes, "You just finished 162. Everybody is hurt, period."
And his is like a very obvious, like he's actually hurt. He has plantar fasciitis that he's been dealing with this entire season.
Yeah. And so whenever you hear that, especially from a guy like Waino, who's won a World Series, he's been to the postseason time and time again. He's had a lot of opportunities to play in the postseason. And he basically said, everybody is hurt somewhere. Their body hurts somewhere. So that would kind of lead you to believe that rest would be well appreciated and helpful to pretty much everybody. Then you have the other side that says, well, they've played baseball every single day for 180 days, minus about 18 days total spread across that 5-month span. So these guys, to stay sharp, have to do this every single day, or they're going to throw off their rhythm. So my first question to you, Gautam, which side of this argument do you stand on?
Before I get into which side I'm on, I just want to say I feel like we shouldn't be jumping in and making sweeping judgments based off these 2 years of games. It's like not much information at all, but yet we like to jump in and say, oh, the playoffs are completely flawed and they need to be rethought and they need to be completely scrapped. They just don't work.
Counterpoint. If we didn't talk about that, would literally anybody have a podcast or like a show about baseball or something? I feel like you always have to pick something to try and overblow a little bit just to get the conversation going. And this is one that really doesn't have that much of a repercussion to. Like, you could argue it all you want. It's not going to change anything.
I mean, they could change the playoff format, right?
Yeah, but they're probably not going to do that until the next CBA, because I think that's one that has to be determined in the CBA. So we've got it for another 4 years.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure about that, but like, okay, so I'll get into the numbers here. There's a pretty good article on Fangraphs today called "Layoffs Haven't Hindered Playoff Teams Historically," and they looked at teams that had a layoff for 4 or more days versus an opponent that had a layoff for 2 or fewer days. So that includes last year and this year's postseason series where that happened, and then years past where one team would have a longer layoff between the beginning of their next series in the postseason.
Yeah, and for instance, the 2005 Chicago White Sox, who basically swept their way into the World Series, right? So they
did not sweep the first series, but yeah.
Okay, but they swept the championship series and then had to wait like 4 or 5 days for their opponent to be decided in the World Series to start. So situations like that have happened before this current playoff format are also included in this number, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and the other part of it was that the team they were playing had 2 or fewer days of rest. So don't know specifically about the White Sox, but yeah, it could have been. The teams that had more rest went 24-11, and there's a lot kind of to unpack in that, because there's some baked in advantages that the teams with buys actually have. Like you mentioned, they get to rest up, they get to line up their starting pitching for that series. Those are like the advantages that you play the regular season for, so you have that opportunity. And then the other thing is, like, that team on paper is like 99% of the time going to be better than the team that they're playing, because that team was in the previous round, and they probably have a worse record than the team that has the extended layoff. So
there's actually one more advantage that it's sort of baked into the longer rest, but one that I think people forget about. And the perfect example for this is actually looking at the NFL and what just happened this week. So the NFL has been playing games in London for years now, right? They'll play 2, sometimes 3 games a year over there. And they try and rotate teams. However, this year they played in back-to-back weeks, the 3rd week being next week. The Jacksonville Jaguars have actually been there for 2 weeks already in a row, which is the first time that's happened. And they have been able to adjust from the jet lag, play a game, and then continue to rest and train on that schedule. And so them being over the jet lag, they're ready to play. The Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, showed up to their game in London this week with about 50 hours before game time. So they didn't have time to recover from just the travel. So that's the other thing with the extra rest, is like just the travel situation. Like, you have 4 days to get from, you're already probably in Atlanta.
Yeah, exactly. The Braves are probably home. If they finish their season at home, they've been at home for weeks now, literally. Yeah. And I mean, the Jags in London thing, but that's also still just narrative, right? We like to build that story. They had more time to beat the jet lag, that's why they won the game. But like,
well, it's not the only reason they won the game, but it's definitely an advantage that they had that the Bills did not.
That's fair. Yep.
So and that's ultimately what we're talking about is advantages.
And the team has all the advantages, right? That has the rest. except for this thing that we're talking about here, which is the rest is somehow hurting them. The layoff is hurting them.
Yeah. And just had a thought and I lost it. Crap.
Let's talk about the Braves, I guess. So in their first game, after not playing since last Sunday, they did not score a run. They got shut out in a home game that had not happened all season. They didn't score in tonight's game until the seventh inning, or the sixth inning. And that was the longest streak of innings this entire season where they went scoreless. This is like a historically great offense, and they just happened to have a really bad game and a half. And I guess people are maybe freaking out and looking for excuses.
Yeah, it's the first time they've been shut out at home in 2023. Like, this is something that is unique to this season for the Braves. And so naturally it does raise a bunch of questions like what's different about now? And the easy thing for people to look at is, well, they just had a bunch of time off that they haven't had the rest of the season. Now, my question, and this is kind of going back to something we just talked about a second ago, but I remember what my point was. So you said teams with 4 days rest are 24-11.
Yep.
So I'm curious what the like head-to-head record is for like game ones where there was like equal rest, like neither team got rest. Just because how much of an advantage is there? Obviously, it's small sample size versus massive sample size. But
wait, so you're asking about
like if both teams had 2 days or less of rest and went head-to-head in a game one, what is that record? Like,
like, does it favor the favorite or not?
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, because like, is there a way that you could look at 24-11, which is a small sample size, versus 200 to 198 or whatever it would be when both teams are equally unrested or equally rested or whatever, just where there's not this one favoring the other as far as rest.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like we can have this discussion and we're never going to get to an answer, right? Because there's a million different factors that go into it. The Phillies played great in game one. They're playing well tonight too. So they got to get some credit in this conversation.
All right, so let's give them some credit. So this Phillies team has basically come and made it through 2 games in the wild card series against the Marlins and absolutely dominated.
Yeah, they just made that look easy. Like they gave up 2 runs total, great starting pitching. They scored 7 runs in one of the games. Like everything was clicking for them.
Yeah.
And they were playing the Marlins. Like that helps.
Yeah, and the Marlins didn't exactly surprise us with how they played. Like, we knew that their pitching was going to be kind of a struggle, and it was. The Phillies, I think, scored...
They scored 4 in the first game. They scored 7 in the second game.
Okay, so scored 11 total runs in that series, giving up 2. We kind of knew the Marlins didn't have a whole lot of offense. The offense started showing up in the 9th inning of game 2, which is too little too late. And they still only scratched 1 run across. So... But, I mean, that gives you momentum. Their pitchers have obviously been locked in, and they're carrying it over to this series. And they've shown it. I mean, it was Nola on Saturday, right?
No, it was...
Ranger Suarez.
It was Ranger Suarez, yeah.
And Ranger actually did not have a great game. He only went 3 2/3 innings.
He was pitching okay, though. He only gave up, I think, 1 hit.
Okay, so they just pulled him out of an abundance of caution, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's like another like side conversation about what happened to the Blue Jays, where they pulled basically cruising Jose Barrios like after about 4 innings or so. So like it was the exact same situation as what happened to Ranger Suarez. Yet the Blue Jays were just completely getting like trashed or their manager was getting trashed for the way they handled that situation because they ended up giving up runs right after that when their pitcher was cruising. The exact same thing happened with the Phillies, and the Phillies bullpen like ran with it and finish off the game. They won and everything, and no one says a single thing about it when the results go the way people want it to go.
Yeah. But so this Phillies team though has been playing phenomenally. And in game 1, their bullpen was awesome. They gave up 2 hits, well, I guess 4 hits across 5 and a third innings.
Yeah.
1 walk, struck out 4. Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to do a whole bunch of totals in my head. And they went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pitchers in that as well. So like they seem to be able to keep turning to guys and just handing them the ball and just saying, hey, go out and face the best team that most people have seen in their lifetimes and just keep them from scoring. And they're succeeding at it. And they turned to the bullpen here about an inning ago after Zach Wheeler gave up a 2-run home run. And they're turning to that exact same bullpen right now. And so far, it's working. I mean, we've only been about an inning. Jose Alvarado pitched a clean inning. And they're just able to keep going back. So their starting pitching has been really good. Their bullpen has been really good, and they trust it right now. Their lineup has obviously been hitting because they've scored 4 runs today. They scored 3 runs on Saturday. So they're not setting records over here.
Yeah.
But they're getting production off of this Braves team.
Yeah, and they're doing these like small things too. I think they figured out the Braves catchers right now, or their pitchers or something, are really slow to the plate. They're not. They're taking bases. They stole 1, 2, 3. They stole 4 bases in game 1, with Trey Turner having 2, and then tonight they've got at least another couple steals. I think Nick Castellanos stole a base. And Travis d'Arnaud made a really bad throw into center field. Castellanos went to third on the play. And the very next pitch was a sac fly. So that's just like that extra base was the difference in them scoring a run. So
I would like to point out something that you just said. Castellanos stole a base? It just doesn't sound like a thing that should happen. I mean, it probably happens a lot more than I give him credit for, but it just doesn't sound like something that should happen.
No, it doesn't. He's not a big base stealer, but he's like picking his spot in obviously like a key game, key situation, and making the most of it. Like this Phillies team a lot.
And then Pache had a steal, and Ronald actually just took a hit by pitch. And if we know, I mean, it's obviously the other team, but I have a feeling that this is going to be the Braves' time to retaliate with some stolen bases here, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Ronald doesn't really matter who's behind the plate, including if it's JT Realmuto, who's one of the best throwing catchers in the league.
Top-time elite.
He's going to be probably taken off here in a matter of seconds. So that's exciting. But yeah, one more thing on the Phillies bullpen and just like the way they were kind of managed in the game 1. Rob Thompson, obviously not scared to go to the bullpen early. He doesn't he's just trying to get the 27 outs. And he went to the high leverage guys earlier than some like traditional managers might have. You're saving for the late innings, but what's the point of saving for the late innings if the real high leverage is in the middle innings? Like he brought Jose Alvarado to pitch the 6th inning because the good part of the lineup was coming up. Like that just makes more sense. And the game is really tight. It was 2-0. That's the time to use your guys. You can score more runs, and the end of the game may not be the maximum leverage situation. So
Yeah.
I think Rob Thompson's like doing everything right, pushing all the right buttons, kind of like he did last year. He was getting so many rave reviews for their World Series run.
So you're saying the Canadian is doing the right things while the Canadians did the wrong things?
Yes.
Interesting. Make that a headline. Canada does right thing, Canadians do wrong thing. I think that's how that goes.
Wow. Ozzy just grounded out.
Doesn't count as a steal.
No.
This is ridiculous. But yeah, but I think my main point that I kind of got distracted when I saw Ronald get on and lost my point, but it just, the Phillies are kind of doing everything the Braves do and doing it just a little bit better right now. And that's really the ultimate reason why the Phillies won game one, why they were winning game two pretty handily here until about the bottom of the sixth, when that 2-run home run to Travis d'Arnaud ended up making it a pretty tight game here. And the Braves do have a runner in scoring position that could tie it up. But so far, the Phillies have been in the driver's seat for the series. Doesn't necessarily mean that the Braves are not doing well. It's not like they gave up 6 runs in the first inning to the Phillies. Like, these have been tight games.
Was that your segue?
I mean, maybe.
Into the Dodgers?
It was. Yeah. No, but the other series that, one of the other 2 series that kind of bring this whole rust versus rest debate up in a lot of people's minds is the Dodgers and Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks had to play their way through the wild card series against the Milwaukee Brewers just to get an opportunity to face the second best team in the National League by record, the Los Angeles Dodgers of Los Angeles. Chavez Ravine. I don't know. We'll make it work. I want to add the of where they're from just to make it more like the Angels because I think it'd be fun. But yeah, so Dodgers in Arizona in Dodger Stadium, where Merrill Kelly started the game for the Diamondbacks. He is 0 for 15 career against the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium.
He couldn't have pitched that many games at Dodger Stadium, right?
Maybe he's just 0-15 against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever won a game against the Dodgers. I know that for sure.
And then I think I'm conflating 2 stats. So yeah, he's 0-15 against the Dodgers, and then there was another stat about pitching in Dodger Stadium, but now I can't remember what it was.
But regardless,
the Dodgers were the heavy favorite.
That ball is gone. Austin Riley gives the Braves the lead. Just totally turned the series right there.
Jeff Hoffman. He is now no longer on the list of good relievers to go to in high leverage, in my opinion. Actually, he probably still is. But no, this is what the Braves have been waiting for. They've been waiting to get back on track, start getting the bats going, and here in the last 2.5 innings, they've been back with a vengeance. That's the second 2-run home run of the last 2 1/3 innings. So, off the bat of Austin Riley. But Merrill Kelly was basically not expected to come out and pitch well in this game against the Dodgers. It seemed like there was going to be no hope for Arizona, at least in game 1, because the Dodgers are this powerhouse. Clayton Kershaw was going to be on the mound for his postseason debut of 2023. And it seemed like it was written in the cards that the Dodgers would take game 1. About 2 pitches later, and Kershaw gives up some loud contact. Actually, I believe the first 6 balls in play by the Diamondbacks in that game were all over 100-mile-an-hour exit velo. If I remember right. It was a ridiculous number. I remember that. But this one was definitely one of them. Hit right at James Outman. It was kind of a floating liner, but Outman could have got it just standing, caught the ball, would have been fine.
It wasn't right
would
at
have been
him.
He had to move a little bit, but point is, he didn't have to jump for it. He jumped for it, ended up hitting the heel of his glove, bounced out. Ketel Marte ended up getting credited with a double, even though I really think it probably should have been scored an error. Oh, well. And then Kershaw just looked utterly defeated the moment that happened. Like, the look on his face was just like, you have got to be kidding me. And then he goes out and gives up 6 runs in that inning before being pulled out with exactly 1 out in the game.
That was rough to watch, actually. Like, that was so unexpected. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the start that anyone was expecting in that game for Kershaw, for the Dodgers, for the Diamondbacks. And then the Diamondbacks didn't stop there either. Like, they just kept putting on runs, and the Emmett Sheehan came in and ended up giving up, I believe, 3 more runs, and then settled in, pitched another like 2 2/3 innings after giving up his 3 runs. And they were able to get out of it without giving up too much more. But that kind of speaks to, was that the rest being bad for them? Or did the Diamondbacks just take advantage of a struggling pitcher who doesn't really have the high velos that he used to have, high being mid-90s, and just wasn't locating?
It's funny that you call Kershaw like a struggling pitcher, because, yeah, he's clearly struggling. He was really bad in that start, and his velocity's been down. He's been dealing with the shoulder injury, but before this game, the results did not say he was struggling. If you knew none of the context or the backstory or anything, you'd say Clayton Kershaw, he's going out there and putting up zeros basically every start. And then this one, he got hit really hard. And
yeah, but whenever you see that he's been pitching with that lower velo for a long time, you start to realize that finesse pitchers, if their finesse is off just a little bit, they become incredibly hittable. Like, that's something. I know,
but Kershaw's different though. Kershaw, we never see him struggle, no matter what he's going through. He always succeeds, and that's why that game was so surprising.
Yeah, and I have some harebrained theories about that. I think he's pitching a lot more injured than he's saying, because they don't really have any pitchers. And so him pitching hurt while also having just the lower velo, the lower spin rates, like, he needs to be on point to dominate. And he has been most of the year. I think right now he's just at the point where he can't get that perfect pinpoint control, that Maddoxian. How would you say that? Maddox-like quality, where he could just kind of toss the ball and it go exactly where he wants it, and confuse everybody because of just how perfect it was. It's off just about that much, and then all of a sudden 88 miles an hour becomes a beach ball because it's floating just a little bit to the middle of the zone. And that's kind of what happened. And that's how you end up giving up a ton of loud 100-mile-an-hour plus contact. Like, yeah, we don't see it from him much, but he still struggles from the exact same issues that every other aging pitcher goes through, just at a less frequent rate.
Yeah, definitely. And I know Dave Roberts has said, Kershaw is going to start a potential game 4. It's because they don't have better options. Like, realistically, if they had better options, if they had like a Julio Urias, if they had a Walker Buehler, there's no way you can start Kershaw after like a game like that. It was just so bad.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly doesn't have what he normally has right now.
Yeah. Like, you need Dustin May, you need Tony Gonsolin, you need fill in the blanks. What you probably don't need is Lance Lynn.
But that's not an option.
It's not an option. They're going to have to throw Lance Lynn, and they're going to do it tomorrow in game. Tomorrow? Is there a day off? I think there's a day off.
There's another day off, yeah.
So they're going to do that on Wednesday and throw Lance Lynn out there. I think tonight is...
Today's Bobby Miller.
Okay. So, young guy. Dominant stuff. And he's pitched fairly well. So, this is maybe the game where you feel the most confident in the Dodgers pitching.
But then you remember you're going up against an absolute ace in Zach Gallen. So, it's a tough matchup.
Yeah. So there's no easy games here. If you were the Dodgers pitching staff, they have a great bullpen, an absolutely great bullpen, but that bullpen can't pitch 9 innings every day. There's just not enough guys in there. I mean, I guess they could just like cut the rest of the starting pitchers off the roster and put in 4 more relievers and maybe try and piecemeal 9 innings a day. I mean,
they're going to be piecemealing these games, I feel like, and the additional off days really help the Dodgers like even up with the Diamondbacks here, because Diamondbacks are in a good spot. They've already won game 1. They've got their ace going tonight, but it's going to be tough for the Dodgers. But no way I'm counting them out with the offense they have and just overall team. Starting pitching is definitely a concern, though.
Yeah, but as we did with the Phillies in the Braves series, like, you got to give credit to the Diamondbacks for that game. Like, holy crap. Like, just so far in this postseason, Corbin Carroll, Gabby Moreno, and Alek Thomas all have 2 home runs each in their first postseason ever.
You just reminded me of that Alek Thomas home run that he hit. That was like later in the game. That was incredible because it was like a 12 or 13 pitch at bat. He was just fouling pitch after pitch after pitch. And then he stuck in there, and man, if that guy like develops power and shows it in games to go along with his elite center field defense, really fast and makes contact and stuff, that guy's going to be superstar, just like Corbin Carroll.
I mean, honestly, if he gets a little bit more power, he is Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, it's
elite defense. Right? He is probably the second fastest guy in the league after Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
Just by raw speed. Like, the similarities between the two are astounding. And yeah, he's had 2 massive home runs in the series. I mean, honestly, the one in game 1 was kind of a garbage time home run, like not really necessary for the win. Well, but I'm talking the wild card series too. Like,
got you.
Yeah, because his play in the wild card series he was a big part of them getting past the Brewers. Like, the Brewers have a really, really good rotation. It was missing Brandon Woodruff, but
but that didn't play into it because they literally went out there and they beat Corbin Burns and Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, and the guys that did it were Alek Thomas, Corbin Carroll, and Gabby Moreno. And they pretty much all did it single-handedly. But yeah, and this pitching staff, Brandon Pfaadt ended up pitching a really good game against the Brewers. He's going to be relied upon on Wednesday to go up against Lance Lynn. Zach Gallen pitching tonight, and Merrill Kelly has had 2 really, really good starts so far.
Just one.
Wait, he's the one who didn't pitch in the first series.
Right, that's why they're set up so well, because Pfaadt pitched game 1 and they got out of it in 2 games.
Why did I think it was Gallen that didn't pitch in the first series? That would have been dumb, but I don't know why I thought that was the case.
Because I think you're thinking that because that's how it was like listed originally, but that's not actually what happened.
Oh, that could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously like their lineup's been performing, and I think the biggest thing that gave me a scare with the Diamondbacks was actually in game 2 of the wild card series, that hit to the back of the head on the backswing or on the follow through to Gabby Moreno that knocked him out of game 2. I really thought he was going to be in concussion protocol for a few days, but he was back on the field on Saturday for game 1 and played really well. He his defense is incredibly underrated. His pitch calling ability as a 24-year-old, 23.
Yeah, he's really young. He might be like 23 or 22. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
he's already like up there as one of the best defensive catchers. No one runs on that guy. And now he's hitting. It's like that guy, that's a superstar right there, too.
yeah. And so him being back for game one and not being out with a concussion after he just collapsed to the ground after he got hit in the back of the head. Like he just straight up fell to the side. I was kind of really scared watching that, but he appears to be fine and he's playing really well in the one game since. So we'll see if they have him back behind the plate tonight, but
I can't imagine they wouldn't, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, so rust or just really, really good play from a team who is hot right now versus a guy who just was clearly not on that day. It kind of feels more like that's your answer in that game too. So, I guess do we want to kind of go into the same style of discussion for the Rangers and Orioles, or kind of move the discussion along to maybe some individual players? And
yeah, let's shift the conversation. You know, everyone's having the same conversation. I think we've addressed it now.
We have beat the dead horse.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I think maybe what we should do is talk about a couple things that in our last episode we drastically misrepresented what we know now happened. And I think the first one of those is we really thought that the Rangers were not going to be able to pitch. And so far, they have not only been able to pitch, but they've pitched really, really well. I mean, they made it past the Rays in 2 games behind starts from Jordan Montgomery and Nate Eovaldi, right?
Yeah, that was a really surprising one to me because Eovaldi has been really struggling, low velocity since he's coming back from his injury, really short starts pretty much every time out. He's been giving up a ton of runs as well. Not the same guy he was in the first half of the season at all. And then this start, he goes out and pitched 6 2/3 innings and gives up, I think, like 1 or 2 runs. His velocity was back up to 95, throwing the splitter, and looked like the old Eovaldi. I don't even know where that came from. Sometimes, like, that was the single most surprising performance I've seen this postseason, I would say. Because it just feels like, where did that come from? Like, where's that been?
And then ditto to Andrew Heaney in game 1 of the division series, right?
Yeah, so like that, they're another team that's kind of dealing with basically 2.5 real starters at this point. And the 2 starters did really well, which left them Andrew Heaney to get them a couple innings before they basically did a piggyback with Andrew Heaney and Dane Dunning. And those guys did well, and they turned it over to the bullpen, and the bullpen has incredibly been holding up in these 4 games so far now.
Yeah, in that piggyback start, Heaney went 3 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run on 2 hits, and Dane Dunning went another 2 innings, giving up 1 run on 2 hits. So a combined line for them, 5 2/3, 2 runs, 4 hits. That's a really solid day.
Yeah.
You get it out of 2 guys instead of 1, like you had with Eovaldi in the game before, or Monty in the game before that. But I mean, we're at a point where every game matters. And so getting that kind of production out of those 2 guys who you really did not know what you were going to get, that's huge.
Oh, what a catch by Michael Harris.
Dang. Oh, double him up.
Oh, to end the game.
Oh, my God.
That's so tough. What a way to lose.
Wow. All right.
For the podcast listeners, what just happened is Nick Castellanos hit a deep drive to right center field, and Michael Harris jumped up at the wall, caught the ball, and Bryce Harper, who's on first base, was charging around the bases to go be the tying run. Realized he needed to get back and just could not return back to first base in time. He got doubled off.
So
and that's the ball game.
I assume what happened immediately preceding that. I don't have audio on because you guys would hear it. So, but I assume what happened immediately preceding that is Bob Costas said something that was right at the line, not over the line, because if so, that ball would have been gone, as it always is when someone has to make an apology. So it was an apology adjacent statement, and so Castellanos hit a home run adjacent ball.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. Like, we got a series here now. It's going to be just an absolute fight these next 2 or 3 games.
But yeah, just to get back to the point that we were making, though, you get 5 2/3 from Heaney Dunning, and that's after 6 2/3, after I think 6 or 7 from Monty in game 1 of the last series.
Yeah.
And then go to yesterday, and you get another gem from Jordan Montgomery. Or not yesterday. What am I thinking? Did he pitch yesterday?
Yeah, Montgomery pitched yesterday. He did decent. I think he had like 4 runs, but it didn't matter because they had scored so many runs. I mean, the real story is the Rangers returned to being the Rangers on offense. Like, one of the best offenses in the league, and they've showed it, like, in these games. Like, they're scoring tons of runs, and the guy we should talk about is Evan Carter, because his story is awesome. Like, he just showed up when Adolis Garcia was on the IL for like some knee injury. Evan Carter shows up. He's basically batting 9 in that stacked lineup every day, and playing really well. Seemed to learn a few things, and now here he is in the playoff series, batting 5th in that lineup, and he's just getting on base every single time he comes to plate. It seems like, I believe he's reached base 12 times in 4 games now. I mean, that's some special stuff right there for like a 21-year-old.
Yeah, I think you were telling me that through some point of game 1 of the division series, and I don't remember exactly when you sent me this text, but Evan Carter was on base 11 out of 12 times in the postseason to that point.
Yep, that was right in the middle of that game 1.
Yeah, that is an astounding streak right there. Like, 11 out of 12 times to the plate, you are on the base paths, causing some stress for that pitcher. Like, yeah, he's a big reason that the Rangers are playing as well as they are. Like, even if he's not driving in runs, that is a lot for a pitcher to have to deal with, just constantly having a guy on base.
And he is driving in runs. He has a homer, an RBI double. Yeah, the guy's like a huge contributor right now.
But then on the other side of things, the Orioles seem to be struggling. Their pitching has been not great. Grayson ended up going only 1 2/3, giving up 5 runs before coming out of the game, and then a combination of Baker and Webb ended up giving up the runs that became the grand slam by was it Nate Lowe that hit the grand slam?
No, it was Mitch Garver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the Rangers, or the Orioles pitching, definitely struggled in game 2, and game 1 wasn't too much different, if I recall. Like, it was about 4 2/3 innings from Kyle Bradish, maybe.
Yeah, he pitched okay. It was just,
yeah, he only gave up 2, it looks like. But
what was the final score of that game? I'm not.
It was only 3-2 was the final. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was another game where Texas stepped up in the bullpen and was able to hold the lead. That was slim. I guess question I'll ask you about Baltimore. Baltimore had a great season. Like they had the best record in the AL. They had so many awesome performances from young players. Seemed to get the most out of that pitching staff, and like it was like a dream season, honestly.
Yeah.
Because they were not supposed to be the best team in the league. But does it feel like they kind of they played better than the sum of their parts this season, and they're kind of getting exposed for that? They're not the strongest team in basically any facet. You can find other teams that do pretty much each of the components of the game of baseball better than the Orioles. They're just solid all around, though.
Yeah. And I think the other part of it for the Orioles is a little bit their youth. And it's not necessarily that when you're in the minors, the season's shorter, and so maybe they're not used to this. And it's not so much that. It's just maybe more the mentality, the mindset of this is something that the Orioles as a franchise have not had in a long time. 100-win season has not happened for a while. Just making it to the postseason has not happened for a while. And the expectations, especially after having a 100-win season, are astronomical. People expect you to make it to the World Series. But these are still guys that are in their first season in the big leagues. Second, if you're Adley, but they're 21, 22, 23 years old. There is a point where no matter how much you try and push the pressure and the expectations out, you're still going to be trying to push yourselves to live up to them. And sometimes pushing makes it harder. And I kind of wonder if that's what's happening here. Because up until now, they've just been able to have fun. But now there's actual expectation. So I wonder how much that's playing into it. Like, it's something that we'll never know, but just the thought that I was having.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Like that's going to be a huge learning game, I feel like, for Grayson, because he showed he can be an elite starter in the league in the second half, basically. And then this game, it's like he forgot everything he was doing for the last couple months and became the really untrustworthy, really unproven and basically rookie pitcher. And that's what he showed in this playoff start. I think he's going to come back and probably learn a ton from that start. And
so it's obviously a little bit different, but does this not remind you of the 2015 Cubs? Like, the 2015 Cubs made it to the championship series. Yeah, I get that. But they were a young team that hadn't done it before. There were growing pains in there. Like, not every game was perfect, and it was a grind getting to the championship series. They didn't end up winning it. The Mets did. The Mets went on to lose to the Royals, we all know. But then the next year, when the Cubs got to the postseason, they looked like they'd been there before, like they could handle it, and they showed up and they did it.
Yeah, totally. Like, I made that exact comp between the 23 Orioles and the 2015 Cubs a couple of weeks ago, I think, on this podcast. And there's so many similarities. It's just a matter of are the Orioles going to go out and supplement their team? Maybe not, but
yeah, I think
they have all the same characteristics of the young position player talent, and they got star potential right there on that team.
I think the main difference between the two is this team does not have a 2015 Jake Arrieta. Like, this team is trying to do it with some youngish, unproven starters that haven't had great careers so far. But they could get there. And a rookie in Grayson who has incredibly high upside, whereas the Cubs had an established rotation to go with these very inexperienced position players. Whereas the Orioles are young through and through. Austin Hayes and Anthony Santander and Aaron Hicks are their experienced veterans. Like, that's huge. It's definitely going to help them, but I would argue it's not quite the same as having like your Jake Arrieta and your who else was in the Cubs rotation at 15? Was Lester there already?
No, yeah, he was there.
Okay, so yeah, your Lester, your Arrieta. It was Lackey that wasn't there in 15.
Yeah, he came in 16.
Okay, Quintana?
Nope, he was there in 17.
Dang it! Thought I had one. But you get my point. So, all right, what else did we underrate? We talked about Arizona's pitching. We massively underrated their ability to come in and... What did I miss here? How is Arizona already up 3-0?
Yeah, they just got a bunch of hits off Mr. Bobby Miller. So looking good for the D-backs.
But yeah, we underrated their pitching. I think I was thinking about it, and like good hustle, Freddie. We kind of mentioned that both the Diamondbacks and the Marlins were about a half step to maybe a full step behind the rest of the teams in the postseason. And the Marlins, we were right. I think the Diamondbacks are showing us that maybe we were not giving them enough credit. Like, they can do all aspects of the game well in the postseason, and they are. Like, haven't really had to see a ton of their bullpen yet.
Well, we actually did in game 1 of the wild card round, where Brandon Pfaadt had the bad start, and then their bullpen was amazing, and their bullpen's been terrible all year long. It's like shades of what the Rangers are doing right now too. If your bullpen gets hot, you have a chance in any of these games. It feels like that's like such a key.
Yeah, last year's Phillies, the year before's Braves, list goes on.
Hot bullpens.
Is there anything else that we underrated?
How awesome Royce Lewis is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Royce Lewis has 2 home runs in the postseason so far. 3 home runs in the postseason so far, and a couple other really, really good plays. He's driven in quite a few RBIs for the Twins. And I think so. One thing that doesn't surprise me at all is this Twins team. Pretty much everything that they've done in the 2 series so far. The first series against the
Blue Jays.
Yeah, against the Blue Jays. And then so far through 2 games against Houston, they have pitched phenomenally so far. Their lineup has been there and has been hitting and producing, and Royce Lewis has been a huge part of that.
Another huge part of it is Carlos Correa, who is kind of taking it to his old team. And, you know, if you want to make the case that Carlos Correa is like a big game player, like, I cannot argue against that at all. Like, guy just year in, year out, every time that they make the postseason.
Would you say clutch?
Clutch. Carlos Correa is clutch.
I know you don't like that word.
He goes through the entire season, regular season, worst season of his career, and now when it matters the most, he's making an count and making the Twins look good for giving them a bunch of money. And I don't know, like, is Carlos Correa clutch to you?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Honestly, I think pretty much everybody that was on those Astros teams, the exception of a handful of guys, but like all the superstars really do have this air of being clutch. I mean, you see George Springer, and it seems like every time he's in a huge moment or a huge game and he's leading off, he seems to hit a leadoff home run in that game. He did it in like 4 straight opening days or something at one point in his career. Seems like every like postseason that he makes it to, he ends up hitting a leadoff home run. He obviously didn't do it this year with the Blue Jays against the Twins, but he kind of reminds me of, or like when I think the word clutch, I think of Springer. I do think of Correa. I think of Altuve. Like those are kind of the three that to me in recent memory are like the three clutch guys in the league.
I just think that they're really good.
Well,
But
that's
just
true,
me.
but you just talked about how it was Correa's worst season of his career, and then he's still able to do this in the postseason, and just like he flips a switch and he's there. And I think that's what I consider clutch. Like it's a completely qualitative thing. But just the guys that like the ferocity in their eyes and their focus just seems to just all of a sudden lock in. Right as the postseason starts. Like Yachty, he was kind of the same thing where he could not hit for his entire career above like a slightly below average level. But for some reason in the postseason, that man got like every hit known to man. He batted probably like 700 or something in his career in the postseason. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
I thought his numbers still sucked in the postseason.
Now
he just got a couple of bloopers that fell in, and people called him clutch.
Now his numbers were quite a bit higher in the postseason. Like he was above a 300 hitter, I thought, in the postseason. But I don't know. But those are the guys that to me represent the word clutch. And so yes, I think Correa is clutch. So a pitcher who I think he's not even clutch. He's just dominant. Pablo Lopez. Dude is.
I guess like the clutch feels like it just takes away from them. To me, it's like you're just, I don't know, like it's taken away from how good a talent that Correa is.
I mean, you could be a fantastic talent and also be clutch if you perform better than your own baseline in certain situations. Like it's clutch relative to you. It's not clutch relative to everyone else. Like
I feel like that's not the way it's treated though.
It's not, but like it's
how your
it
definition
should be.
Of clutch. That's how you're defining clutch in this case, I guess.
Yeah, that's so for me, it's guys who perform better than their baseline in high leverage situations. And that's the one that I think earlier in the season, there was a stat on Fangraphs that they've developed that's clutch. And I can't remember how it broke down, but we did an episode where we were talking about that quite a bit. So I'll have to go back and find that. But Pablo Lopez, I think, is the other guy that we should talk about very specifically. He's had 2 starts so far in this postseason, and holy crap, the dude is nuts.
Yeah, like, it's so awesome to watch him pitch. Like, because everyone knew that Pablo Lopez was a really good, talented pitcher when he was on the Marlins, but this year it's like he just took it to a completely different level. And the biggest thing was innings pitched. I think he went over 200 innings pitched. He's been frequently injured in the past, and it's totally carried over into the postseason. This last start, last night, he had his highest fastball velocity. That is awesome. You were talking about how all these pitchers are injured, everyone's dealing with stuff. Pablo Lopez is saving his best for last. Like he's out here like strong as can be, and that's what the team needs.
He's the anti-Yu Darvish.
Does Yu Darvish get tired in the playoffs or something?
Do you not remember that?
Oh man, yeah, the Dodgers.
Yeah, the Dodgers, Yu Darvish.
Yeah, that was so unfair.
Yeah. It was probably unfair for me to make that comment too. But
yeah.
You know. But yeah, Pablo Lopez yesterday, 7 innings. Gave up 6 hits, no runs allowed. But allowed him to just hand the ball over to Stewart and then Johan Duran to close it out. And that was a huge, huge game, bouncing back from a game 1 where the Astros kind of took the lead early and the Twins battled back. Like, don't get me wrong, they battled back, but they couldn't get it done. And so winning that game 2 was imperative, just to get themselves in a position where they weren't backs against the wall elimination game for 3 straight days. the series is already guaranteed to go to 4. And that's kind of exactly what you want if you drop that first game. It's why the Dodgers need to win this game today just to get some momentum back on their side and kind of keep themselves off the ropes for a bit. The Braves just did it a couple of minutes ago where they battled back for 5 runs to get the win. And now they have new life in this series, and we're just resetting and going to a best of 3. So, but Pablo Lopez yesterday did that for the Twins, basically put them on his back. They kept the Astros to 2 runs total, and he didn't give up any of them. And then his first start, he went 5 2/3 innings, only gave up 1 run on 5 hits. So far this postseason, he's almost 13 innings, 1 run.
Yeah, that's ace stuff right there.
Yeah,
I think we might have undersold him because, we've been saying the Twins have a bunch of number 2s, and maybe Pablo Lopez is actually like a true ace, and we've been just calling him a number 2, and that's just a little wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, in our defense, he's never had this many innings in a season before. He's always been injured to the point where he could be pitching like an ace, but you still wouldn't really call him an ace. I think this is the first time that he has been a bona fide ace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that's like one of the most interesting trades that we're going to look back on, because I feel like both sides got something really awesome.
I'm trying to remember who went, but that was Luis Ariz?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be
I would say that both teams did well with that one.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Marlins team just has so many other issues where it almost kind of masks the benefit.
Yeah, that's true. Like Luis Ariz is one guy, and he helped them a lot, but their lineup has so many other flaws.
And then they dealt with so many injuries to their otherwise stellar rotation that it then made the loss of Pablo Lopez look kind of bad, even though at the time they were dealing from an area of massive strength. So it's one of those that I think hindsight 2020, you would have never guessed that they would have had to deal with that many injuries. We kind of knew that they weren't going to have a whole lot of offense around Ariz.
I feel like we did guess that. Wasn't I saying that about the Marlins starting pitching depth?
I mean, like mid-season, not before the season when the trade happened.
Well, I was saying, if you trade from strength, then it's no longer a strength.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. You're asking me to remember more than about 10 minutes ago, so I'm out. All right. Are there any other guys who you want to kind of give some individual love to? You had a question here in the rundown that's who's winning this postseason so far? Like, is it Pablo Lopez? Is it Correa? Is it Evan Carter? Is it Alek Thomas? Is it any of these guys? I mean, we've seen some really good performances so far. We've also seen some massive duds.
Yeah, I feel like Pablo Lopez is definitely up there. Like, he started the game that the Twins actually won in the postseason for the first time in 19 tries. Like that's huge.
And then he started another one that they did.
Yes.
You
got another big winner of the postseason so far that we haven't talked about?
I don't know if it's necessarily yes. It's going to sound like a cop-out when I start this statement, but let me finish it, and I promise it'll make more sense. The fans are big winners, and I say that specifically because of one man, and it is one man who is always so freaking good, and it feels like everyone forgets about him until the postseason, and then they go, oh yeah, this guy's really good, and that's Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah.
This dude
And
mashes.
I swear he's gonna have this he's gonna have an entire 15-year career where no one knows who he is, and he never speaks a word in public, and he's just a baseball playing robot to us, the fans. Guy's like a freak.
He feels like and I'm gonna say the word modern day when the dude I'm talking about is actually on his team now, but he feels like a modern day Jose Abreu. Dude shows up, he balls out. He probably should win an MVP, but he's not gonna because that Shohei guy. And
I feel like he might though.
He might, but he's still like a 50% of the time DH, 50% of the time left fielder. So is he gonna get enough love for it? I don't know. He probably should.
Yeah, I feel like he's the perfect hitter. I was thinking about this over the weekend. I was like, if I were to go in a special lab where I could make elite baseball players, I would make Yordan Alvarez somehow. That's he does everything you could possibly want from a hitter.
Okay, but let me make one improvement. What? Yasmani Grandal's speed.
Oh my God, that would put him over the top.
I blew your mind.
They would have to change the Hall of Fame requirements. So
they would have to
let him in while he was still active.
Yeah. Agreed. But yeah, quit sleeping on Yordan Alvarez. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I don't know. He's not having the best postseason out of anybody so far, but I mean, heck, it's only been 2 games.
I was gonna say he's played 2 games and he's hit 3 home runs. He is having the best postseason. Yeah.
But I think on a national level, people aren't looking at him in the same way that they're looking at Pablo Lopez right now. And it's just because the fact that it's only been 2 games so far.
Yes. It's only been 2 games for Pablo as well.
Yeah, true, but it's a little easier to look at 2 games for a starting pitcher in a postseason than it is to look at 2 games for a left fielder. Just because
you're missing out if you don't notice the 3 home runs in 2 games, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's my point. But I'm guessing next week, if we do that same question, Yordan is 100% going to be in that. Right now, I'm saying it's the fans because people are finally remembering for the season how good this dude is. His baseball card prices are going through the roof right now, I can tell you that. Which that is usually a good indicator of how much hype there is around a dude at any given time. Because that's literally what baseball card prices are built on, is hype. So, scour eBay. See whose prices are going up. You find a guy, probably go look at his numbers. He's doing pretty good. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. Not much. Anything for the remaining, anything specific on any one of these series for the remaining games?
Watch every Houston, Minnesota game there is, period.
I was going to say Phillies and Braves is shaping up to be an epic series now after the Braves came back today.
Yeah. But I still think that the Astros Twins series is maybe the one that we build up the best last week. So far, it's lived up to every bit of what we've said. And I think it's going to continue that way and probably go to 5 is my guess. It's such a good matchup. And these Twins are underrated by 99% of people. We're not those people. We see you, Minnesota. You are good. We believe in TC. Hashtag. I think that is probably it for us. I have one parting question for you, Gautam, and that is, if you were to go into a Magic Baseball lab where you could build the best players in baseball, if you were building a 5-tool player and you had to pick from 5 different guys, what's your player look like? Do you have one on the top of your head?
Wait, pick 5 different guys?
Yeah, a guy for each tool.
Oh, got you. I don't think I could do that off the top of my head, but I feel like that could be a little segment, some episode.
All right. Well, think about it. you guys listening at home, think about it. Let us
Maybe
know.
a 5-tool player from the postseason with players from the postseason.
I like it. But Rachel pointed out you're getting very Frankenstein coded for Halloween, and it's like, well, yeah, it's a good idea. So let's do it. Let's see what we could come up with. So we will maybe look into doing that next week. We will see you guys hopefully sometime later this week with another watch party. And until then, keep checking out our social media for updates on that, and we will see you back here next Monday.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.